Good day, everyone. Welcome to the webinar, Sourcing Masterclass for Your Winning Online Retail Business. This is Bernie. And today we have two incredibly experienced sourcing experts, Magda and Ellen, who will be sharing practical tips to help you source quality products and avoid common pitfalls. But you know, in expo, fair, or physical events, there are always so many opportunities, but they often end up being missed. And you might also find it super challenging to find the right exhibitors and plan your visits, especially when the fair is large and the time is limited, right? And moreover, once the event ends, it feels like that all the opportunities end as well because there are not much chance for follow-up and follow-up afterwards. So let me show you a short videos of how Exhibition Plus could support you in your business success.
Exhibition Plus, brought to you by the Hong Kong Trade Development Council, is a new hybrid model in the exhibition world. This hybrid exhibition model combines the best of both digital and physical sourcing experiences, making it easier for participants from all around the globe to connect and engage. The Hong Kong Trade Development Council is a leading event organizer in Asia. 5 of our events were the largest in the world for their respective sectors back in 2019. Last year, we hosted 40 international exhibitions, bringing together over 28,000 exhibitors and more than 520,000 international buyers here in Hong Kong. By integrating digital tools with physical touchpoints, hybrid fairs are designed to enhance the in-person experience and extend the sourcing journey beyond the physical event. Exhibition Plus takes interactions between buyers and exhibitors from Hong Kong's physical fairgrounds to the digital platform, creating a seamless, year-round sourcing experience through multiple channels. With the AI-powered online business matching platform, Click-to-Match, buyers and exhibitors can connect both online or in person, ensuring no business opportunity is missed. Plus, the innovative Scan-to-Match feature allows buyers to scan dedicated QR codes of exhibitors, connecting the offline experience to the online platform and making it easy to bookmark their favorite exhibitors during the physical event. Buyers can also take advantage of the hktdc.com sourcing, the trusted online marketplace that operates year-round, so you can continue sourcing online even beyond exhibitions. The Click-to-Match smart business matching platform leverages our extensive database to connect suppliers with global buyers with just a click. Buyers and exhibitors can now go the extra mile to discover each other before and after the physical exhibition. With Click-to-Match, you can proactively discover potential exhibitors through our AI recommendation system. This powerful tool provides exhibitor recommendations tailored to your sourcing needs, helping you to identify exhibitors that match your interests and plan ahead for your trade fair visit, even if you can't physically attend our fairs due to a busy schedule. Click-to-Match also lets you continue scheduling and conducting meetings even after the physical fair. This feature maximizes your sourcing journey, ensuring you don't miss any opportunities to connect with valuable leads. The Scan-to-Match feature enables buyers to make offline-to-online connections by scanning dedicated QR codes of exhibitors using our HKTDC Marketplace app at the physical event. By scanning the codes, you can bookmark your favorite exhibitors, browse product information, schedule both in-person and online meetings, view the e-floor plan, and most importantly, continue business discussions with exhibitors online even after the fair. This helps you maintain your sourcing momentum long after the physical event has ended. In addition to these interactive features, our hktdc.com sourcing online marketplace empowers businesses by providing essential tools and resources, helping you excel in a comprehensive, year-round online sourcing experience. As an extension of the physical fairs, hktdc.com sourcing serves as a trusted online marketplace throughout the year and plays a crucial role in the Exhibition Plus model. Currently, we have over 2 million users and 130,000 plus suppliers from mainland China, Asia, and around the world, facilitating over 24 million business connections annually. By utilizing advanced technologies such as AI and machine learning, this platform enhances user experiences and boosts efficiency. Here is the list of upcoming trade fairs featuring the Exhibition Plus model, tailored to meet the specific needs of various industries including lighting, electronics, optical and toys, baby products, and stationery, etc. Based on the registration data for this webinar, we see that our audience comes from a diverse range of industries. We encourage you to take advantage of these exceptional opportunities to explore and expand your business connections by registering for the upcoming trade fairs. Please scan the QR code displayed on the screen to register for our upcoming trade fairs, either online via Click-to-Match or in person. You can also complete our survey form after the webinar and we'll assist you with your registration. We are also offering special airfares from Cathay Pacific, and selected buyers may qualify for travel sponsorships. These sponsorships may include airfare or hotel accommodations, so don't miss out on this fantastic opportunity. Be sure to fill out our survey following the webinar to indicate your interest. If you're looking for local support regarding sourcing or trade fair details, remember that we have 50 offices worldwide. If you need assistance, you can rest assured that there's a global office nearby, ready to help you out. Please visit our website to source profitable products.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back to the Sourcing Masterclass for your winning online retail business. This is Bernie. And let's start with a quick poll to get to know you better. Okay, you will see a pop-up on Zoom asking you a question. Which aspect of sourcing do you find most challenging? Say, identifying a good product, finding reliable suppliers, negotiating prices, or ensuring product quality. Please pick your answer. Choose the answer that resonates most with you. And yes, I know that what you're thinking that why isn't there an option of all of the above, right? So just pick one. Let's see the result. And I will ask our two experts of any tips or solution that we can tackle this challenge. So let's see what you vote for the challenge. But no matter what, anyway, I will ask all the questions. I will ask all the challenges that you face towards our two experts. So stay tuned. They will give you a lot of practical tips on how to tackle this challenge. And remember one thing, that actually we have the Q&A function on Zoom, no matter that is on mobile or on desktop. We will be having all these, some of the questions picked and asked our expert. But before that, let's say hi to our speaker first. We have speaker Magner. Magner is on Zoom, right? Hello, Magner. Yeah. And we have Alan here. Alan. Yeah. So we'll have these two experts sharing to us. Before I hand in the mic to Magner, I love to remind you something first. So first of all, about the Q&A function. No matter you're on mobile or on the desktop, we have the Q&A function on Zoom that you are always welcome to ask any questions in your mind. We'll pick some questions to ask our expert to answer your questions later in this section. And remember one more thing, that is super important. Don't forget, I will be sharing some exciting perks at the end of today's webinar, like the flight ticket sponsorship and the hotel discount. Wow, that's awesome. For your next visit to the Hong Kong TDC event. So remember to stay tuned. Okay, let me start the first introduction of our speaker first. We have Magner. Magner Paraj brings over 24 years of experience in the Asia sourcing industry. She's so passionate about helping Amazon and e-commerce sellers succeed, and her expertise in sourcing strategies, market trends, and international trades has made her a trusted authority in the field. So Magner has visited hundreds of factories and attended a lot of trade shows across India, China, and Vietnam as well, and given her deep insight into the manufacturing and sourcing process in Asia. So today, she'll be sharing us her knowledge on how to source profitably for your online store. Let's pass the mic to Magner.
Thank you so much, Bernie. All right, so let's get started. So I've got some slides to share. So I think we've already covered this. We won't go through the bio. Okay, so let's get into the topic. So I'm going to share a couple of different tips and strategies for you to be able to source your product profitably, effectively, efficiently. And I mean, not all of these strategies are directly related to, like reducing the price and negotiating. Of course, negotiating is one aspect or one way to source profitably. But there are a lot of other things that we can do in the sourcing process that will make the whole process very efficient, very effective, very quick, and also profitable. All right, so first of all, whenever you're sourcing a product, regardless of which country you're sourcing from, make sure that you focus on the supplier capabilities. Now, each supplier is very different, they have different capabilities, they manufacture different products, and sometimes suppliers might say that they can manufacture a range of different products, but usually they specialize in something specific. For example, let's take suppliers in India. Now, there are a lot of suppliers that make metal products and wooden products, right? So sometimes suppliers might say, oh, yeah, we can make both metal and wood. But generally, most suppliers specialize in either metal or wood because the equipment to make those products is different. The expertise, the skill sets that are required to make each of those products is very different. So if you focus on the capabilities of the supplier and really source products that the supplier specializes in, then they have more control over quality. They can get better raw material costs, better component costs for you because they have more well-built supply chains. Whereas if they don't make that product in-house, they're outsourcing it to somebody else, then they don't have that much control over quality. And even, with timelines and all, that can be an issue. So you have to ask them questions like, what sort of products have they done in the past? What are the main products that they export? What kinds of buyers do they have for which kinds of products? What kind of equipment do they have? And what do they outsource? Now, a lot of these companies, of course, might not be very upfront about all of this information. So you have to extract this information. In many cases, you have to ask deep questions, ask follow-up questions, ask them to do a video call of their factory, for example, when you are having a conversation with them. If possible, visit the factory. I mean, regardless of where you're sourcing from, that's actually the best way to determine what the supplier's capabilities are, to actually go visit the factory, see it in person. All right, so that's one thing. Focus on supplier capabilities. You'll get better pricing. You'll get better quality. The timelines will be more effectively managed by the supplier, and overall, it's going to be a better, sourcing experience. Also, the supplier will be very familiar and will be an expert in that product, and they will be able to guide you if you are not familiar with the product on different options that are available in terms of the pricing and quality. All right, that's number one. Number two, focus on quality, not price. Now, this might seem counterintuitive because on the one hand, I'm talking about how to make it profitable. And when I say, how to make your sourcing profitable, that of course means that you have to source at a lower price so that you can keep more of the profits, which of course is one of the objectives. And we're going to talk about negotiating, in subsequent slides. However, if you focus on quality with the supplier, when you're talking and having conversations with them, if your conversations are around only price, then the supplier is going to, have the perception that you don't care about quality. All you care about is, the price, and you're selling in a very price-sensitive market, for example. And they may cut corners to meet your price point. That's actually a very real danger, and that happens in any country, wherever you're sourcing from. If you are excessively negotiating with a supplier, then they can cut corners, and that can cost you in the long run, even though in the short term you're paying less, you're paying a lower price for the product, but in the long term it can be more expensive because fixing quality issues is very, very expensive, much more expensive than paying a few more cents. So always in your conversations with the supplier, of course, you have to talk about pricing, and there's a time and place to talk about price and negotiation, but at the same time, always emphasize that you do want a good quality product, and make sure that you are being very specific in terms of the specifications that you want, in terms of the features, the functions of the product, and just make sure that you understand the product really well. Sometimes this happens with online sellers, like they jump from one product to another, right? Whatever is selling well, sometimes online sellers are like, okay, let me sell this product now because it's getting very popular. However, they don't have a good understanding of what really affects the price and quality of that particular product. So take some time to understand the product, to understand the different material options that are available, the functions, the features, what really affects the price and the quality of each product, right? And then go to the supplier and then give your specifications, and again, in your conversations, make sure that you're focusing on quality. Also, you have to, at the beginning of the conversation, and when you're starting to place an order, you should tell them that you're going to do an inspection, a third-party inspection, before the product is shipped out of the factory, because that also, the supplier will also pay a lot of attention to quality, because they know that you are going to be doing an inspection before the product is shipped out. And of course, if there are quality issues at that time, then there's always the risk that you will not pick up the product from the factory. So again, they will focus more on quality if you say that as well. Okay, so that's number 2. Let's move on to number 3. Control your supply chain. So this may not be possible if you're just starting out with very small orders. However, as you start to grow, as you start to build good relationships with your supplier, and as you're placing more orders and bigger orders with your suppliers, what you need to do is sit down with the factory and talk about your bill of materials, your BOM, and discuss ways to reduce material and component costs. Sometimes the suppliers are not really thinking about this because they're going to do whatever is easiest for them and what is most cost effective for them. But you as a buyer, you need to control your expenses and your costs, and you need to be more profitable for your business. So it's up to you to sit down and discuss with the supplier and think about ways in which the price can be reduced, whether it's maybe changing the material, maybe changing some components. Find out what exactly is affecting the price of the product, and then work on that with the supplier. For example, a little thing like a zipper. Let's say you're sourcing a bag, and the zipper is a very important part of the bag. Of course, you want a good quality zipper. So you can either go for a YKK zipper, that's like very expensive, but it's the best of the best quality. However, if you're selling, let's say, a mid-range kind of bag, do you really need a YKK zipper? Maybe you can source like a medium-sized zipper, right? Or a medium-priced zipper, which is good quality, but it still does the job, but it helps you save money. Another example is, let's say if you're doing some wooden toys, so sit down with the supplier to discuss for wooden toys, what shape and what processes are really taking more time. So we also have to think about the time that is taken to make a product. It's not only about the material and the components, it's also about the time. Just as an example, recently we were sourcing these wooden toys for a buyer, and they had this hammer in the set. It was like a wooden tool set, and the hammer had a curved handle. And so because of the curved handle, it was taking the supplier X amount of time to make that curved handle. However, we suggested to the buyer that they make a straight handle, and that cuts the time that is taken to produce that handle. So that saves cost. And of course, it's a little bit of cost. It's not much, but all of these little things add up, and they overall can bring the price down of the product. Also, let's say you're sourcing textile-based products, right? So you can go directly to the textile mill to source these products. And let's say store the product, store the textiles or the fabric with the factory. And then as and when you place orders, they can actually use that fabric. And the advantage of that is that you can get the fabric at a better price because you're buying in higher quantities. Okay, so you control your supply chain as much as possible. And again, it's not easy to do this just as you're starting out, but as you grow, as you're sourcing more quantities from the same supplier, building a relationship, this is something that you should focus on. Okay, negotiating. So this is a very fun part of sourcing, and some people don't like it, but I enjoy negotiating, and it's part of culture in Asia, right? I mean, whenever we go to a market, don't we always say like "penny dian, make it cheaper, make it cheaper"? That was one of the first phrases I learned actually when I was living in China. So negotiating is part of our culture, but you have to negotiate to find a balance. So it's a win-win for the supplier and for you as well, because when a supplier knows that there is something for him to gain in the partnership, they will put more effort into the partnership, and they'll be they'll be more vested in the partnership with you as a buyer. So you should treat your suppliers like a partner. Simple things like when you're talking to them, instead of saying that, oh, my company is doing this and my company is launching new products and my company is gonna sell on Amazon. See, if you are growing as a company, as a buyer, that will help the supplier grow too, right? So you can talk about your growth plan in terms of a partnership. So you can say that we will, launch new products, and we're going to start selling on Amazon, and that's gonna, help our sales grow, for example. So always treat your suppliers like a partner. That does not necessarily mean that you have to share all of your strategies and your plans and all with them. I'm not saying that, but just at a high level, tell them your growth plan, tell them your vision for that particular product. For example, if you're sourcing one particular product, tell them about how you plan to expand the number of SKUs. So excite them a little bit about the growth prospects of your brand. Because think of it from a supplier's perspective. For them, what do they want? They want long-term customers. They want customers that are placing repeat orders, right? So if you are that customer, then they will prioritize you. They will give you better terms. They will give you better pricing. They will prioritize your orders. So you have to think from a supplier's perspective. They are dealing with so many different buyers, right? And so who are they going to pay more attention to? The buyer who's going to stay with them long term, who's giving them more profits, and buyers that they see a future with, right? So think about it that way. Negotiate, but also make sure that you find a balance so it's a win-win for you and your supplier. All right, build a brand story as a differentiator. Now, this is something that I really appreciate and I'm passionate about because, especially if you're sourcing in countries like Vietnam or Thailand or India, there are a lot of these communities where products are handmade by maybe by women or by tribals or by people in villages, or maybe there are these communities that have been making this product for generations, and it's a skill set that has been transferred from one generation to another. So if you are sourcing those kinds of products, then incorporate your brand story, incorporate all of this into your brand story as a differentiator. This will allow you to, in fact, charge a more premium price, and it will also increase your profitability like that. So, for example, what you can do is you can show photos and videos of the workers or of the artisans that are making these products, tell their story. When you are packaging the product, you can even include like a photo of one of the artisans. And I saw this brand, what they had done is that they had a photo of the artisan, and the artisan was holding a little card that said, "I made your product." So that's something where the consumer, the end user, will feel more connected to your product. There's also this a shoe brand, Tom Shoes. So what they do is for every product that they sell, they do sport shoes. They give or they donate slippers to kids in Africa, and so that's something that you can do as well. Do business and do good. So donate to charities, or somehow maybe sponsor the child's education of the community that you're working with, of the artisans that you're working with, or maybe do something good for the artisans or the communities that you're working with, help uplift them. So all of this, how does it help profitability? Because it helps you differentiate from other brands that are selling the same product. And it allows you to charge a premium price because you're different, because you're perceived as a more premium and a more differentiated kind of brand. So this is something else that you can consider. Think outside the box when you are sourcing products and building your own brand. All right, so those are my slides. I have run out of time. Real quick, in case anyone's interested, you can scan this QR code to download a free ebook on products that are made in India. There are a variety of different types of products that are made in India, including like textiles, specifically cotton textiles, a lot of natural materials like metal, wood, ceramic, leather. India specializes in these kinds of natural materials. And also a lot of food items, for example. Home furnishings is a big market over here as well. Knitted garments, apparel, cotton garments. Block printing is a very traditional kind of style of printing that's very popular as well. So download this QR code, and of course the slides will be shared with all of you as well later on, in case you are interested, in case you're not able to scan this QR code. Okay, if you want more information about what we do, head over to indiasourcing.net. We source products in India, Vietnam, China, and also Turkey. We also organize sourcing trips. So you can go to indiasourcingtrip.com, vietnamsourcingtrip.com, or turkeysourcingtrip.com to get more information. All right, thank you very much. Bernie, back to you.
Thank you, Magna. I really love the point that you mentioned about focus on quality, not the price, and turn out it will help you to save time and money in long run. That is wonderful. And everyone, please remember we have the Q&A function on Zoom that you can ask our expert questions, and we'll pick some to be answered during our seminar. And remember to stay till the end of the webinar, because I'm going to share you some perks like the sponsorship of the flight ticket and the discount of the hotel for your next visit to our event. So we have Alan here with us today, and Alan Scanlan is a highly esteemed sourcing expert with a remarkable 50-year family legacy in the Far East market. Wow. His extensive network of warehouse and third-party logistic providers strategically located and ensures unmatched sourcing services to clients in the US and Europe. And today, Alan will be sharing his insight on winning the China sourcing essential tips and strategies. Wow. Hello, Alan.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Wow, 50 years. Wow, you look so young. And then could you please start by introducing yourself and a bit about more about your family's 50-year legacy in the Far East market and then your own experience in the sourcing industry?
Sure. So my name's Alan Scanlan. I've been living in Hong Kong for 7 years now. And I am my company Mainland Asia with partners in the US and also in the Philippines. I have a D2C business based in Brooklyn, New York called Hook Home, which is a furniture company. And I outsourced all the manufacturing for Hook from Brooklyn to China a few years ago. I previously worked for my family business, as you mentioned, was there for 9 years. My father started the company in 1973 in Ireland and was coming out to Hong Kong in the early years, doing trade shows in hotels long before the exhibition center was around. And then when China opened up in 1978, they'd start going into China and dealing directly with factories that way. The company, at the start, they would kind of source anything they could get their hands on to sell, from toys to stationery, rulers, that type of thing. And then about 4 or 5 years into the business, they were approached by someone to start making Irish souvenirs. So we made leprechauns and shamrocks and all things green that you associate with Ireland. We would design everything in-house, get it sourced and manufactured in China, and then wholesale it throughout Ireland and a bit in Scotland and England as well. So the company was kind of built on that basis. Was doing that or is still doing that to this day, and we would be the largest wholesaler of Irish souvenirs in the country. About 12 years ago, we bought a brand called Tipperary Crystal, which is a giftware company in Ireland, very well known. I think Tipperary Crystal is about 45 years old. At the time, it was doing 95% glassware and 5% giftware, and we've flipped that on its head. So we do about 95% giftware now and 5% glassware. We'd be the largest gifting company in the country, and that's where the family business has kind of really grown from that business. We also do a bit of packaging as well. We do kind of luxury packaging for confectionery companies, for the likes of Marks and Spencer's and a lot of chocolate companies in Europe. And my sister runs that side of the business, with my 2 older brothers running the souvenir and the giftware business.
Wow, that is a whole supply chain or the series of a related business for your family, actually. So I'm really interested about the approach of sourcing and the relationship building, especially when you mentioned that your family is actually running that business for so long. Is there any changes or evolve during the early days until now? Is there any changes or difference?
Any changes or difference in the sourcing methods?
Yeah, the sourcing method or the way we build a relationship with those suppliers.
The way you build a relationship is still the same. It takes a bit of time. Building relationships with factories in China especially is very, very important part of the business. And that's something that we used to speak about as kids around the dinner table when Dad was going off on trips to Asia. and coming out here, spending time with the factories, going for lots of big lunches and lots of big dinners, and the Chinese rice wine and all that sort of stuff is all very important, and shows that you're really making an effort with the factory. So it's something that my dad has instilled in us from a very, very young age, especially with the Chinese manufacturers. How those relationships are built is certainly different. I use WeChat all the time now, and I speak to factories all the time. I'll ask them what they're doing for the weekend. I will send them pictures of my baby. I'll send them pictures of Christmas, and that's something that I enjoy doing, but something that's very important as well. So that you are building that relationship for when things are going well and for when things are going bad.
So that is actually far more than just business. You are sending your picture of your kids, so there's a lot of personal touch in fact, right?
Yeah, and for me anyway, I enjoy that part of the business. To me, business is all about relationships.
Okay.
And I love dealing with factories in mainland China. It's a very different way of doing business, I think, than back west, but it's something that I really, really enjoy doing.
But you just told me a secret when we during the preparation time, that actually you don't really speak Chinese, right?
No.
You're gonna learn it, right?
I took a Mandarin course before I moved to Hong Kong when I was in Dublin, and it didn't go well.
But how could you communicate so well and build that super great relationship with those Chinese and sharing the pics of your kids with them, but not speaking Chinese? How could you do that so well?
WeChat has a translate button, so that helps.
That is the very good tips, really.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and a lot of factories would have, or a lot of factories that I would deal with would always have an English speaking sales rep.
Yeah.
And then I won't say all of the factory owners, but a lot of the ones that we've dealt with over the years, the owners would tend to have a bit of English as well.
Okay, so maybe you cannot speak or write Chinese at this moment, but the WeChat function could still give you some help, and maybe a lot of the factories, they do have some English-speaking sales representative, right? So let me dive into direct to the very important question. Is there any essential tips and strategy for sourcing profitably from the China, and how to ensure the quality of the product that we source from that region?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do if you are trying to source a product from China is to come to trade shows. I think that's where you're going to meet the really high quality factories that will come to the HKTDC shows or the Canton Fair in Guangzhou. Obviously have a bit of money behind them, and they can go and afford to pay for a booth and set up there. So the way things are these days, you'll always find a good supplier there. There is Alibaba, of course, but Alibaba is a bit tricky. There's a certain way and a lot of tricks around finding the right suppliers on Alibaba. People can get burnt a lot with getting the wrong pricing at the start of a negotiation, or being told a product is X price and then all of a sudden there's an increase to it, and then you run into issues with suppliers. There's the likes of myself and Magla, who are agents who have gone through all the problems and run into all the issues over the years, so we can avoid all those problems. Because the biggest thing I see when people do have issues with dealing with China specifically is, I always say this, there's a language barrier, and I don't mean Mandarin and English, I mean a way of doing business. So mainland Chinese factories, they operate how they operate, and there's a different way of doing business in China than there is of doing in the West, and you're not going to change the Chinese. You have to adapt to the way they do business. And this is where a lot of people run into issues and complications, and this is when mistakes happen. So people think a factory is trying to rip them off, but really what's happened is there's been a miscommunication down the line, and that hasn't worked itself out. So that's where the likes of my business comes in. And again, I said, I've had all these issues over the years, I've run into them all, so I can help avoid them. But it really is, it's just an experience thing, and it's adapting to the way the Chinese culture operates.
Okay, adapt to the way. So, but I really want to ask, especially you and Meta got a lot of experience working with the factories. So, is there any red flags that the business should watch out when they evaluating the potential suppliers? And it's something that when you spot it, oh, you gotta be careful.
I would be, I mean, the general process that I would follow, and that most factories will follow, is first of all arranging pricing. So there's different terms around pricing, and to be aware of how the factory is going to price. So you have an ex-factory price, which is the cost of goods directly from the factory. You'll have an FOB price, which is the freight within China. And then you could have a CIF price, which is the price of the goods to your port in your city. So understanding your pricing terms so you're not running into issues there, because a lot of people will get the ex-factory price and then all of a sudden they'll arrange shipping and do all that and the goods have gotten a lot more expensive. And this is the problem. So it's more about understanding the process rather than looking and seeing red flags. So you need to have experience of dealing with that and knowing how that all kind of works. When you do get to the product stage and you're happy with the pricing, always arrange a sample. Always arrange a sample to get in. A lot of the time, it depending on the product, it might take 2 or 3 samples to get it right. But once you do get the sample right, then that's what you sign off on with the factory. So that's your golden sample, okay? Once that's all signed off and confirmed and you go to your mass production, I would always recommend that people get a third-party QC company, and like Megla had mentioned as well, to come in and inspect the goods. And a great tip of what she said was tell the factory at the start, this is going to happen at the end, because it keeps them on their toes and makes sure is that they're really paying attention to the mass production and making sure everything's right. So if you have a third-party company come in and inspect the goods at the end of the process, if there's any issues, you can then get the product fixed or sorted out by the factory. And if there's not, great, you get everything shipped. And it's much better to have that safety blanket of the QC company checking it rather than your container arriving into your country and there's something wrong with it, because you're not going to be able to send it back to the factory.
So I would say that to summarize, this is kind of like look at with your experience to look into that pricing, and then the sample could be some basics to understand more. But you also mentioned one thing about the third-party inspectors, kind of like, right? That is actually a question from Joshua mentioning also. He just asked, actually, how reliable that professional third-party inspector is actually doing good for that. So what's your point?
Yeah, and listen, there's a lot of quality control companies in China, and there's a lot of quality control companies that aren't very good and will reject the goods so they can get another day to go in and inspect so they can make more money. This is a very common thing. So it's difficult. Again, at a lot of the trade shows, you can pick up quality control companies. It's about building a relationship again with them. Like, I've dealt with our quality control guys now for 7 or 8 years. So I know they're good people. There's different levels of quality control. So you can get someone to go in and check your goods for $200 or $300 a day, or you could pay someone $1,000 a day. So they're all certified as well. So it really is, again, about building a relationship with someone that you trust, or building that trust up, or pay a bit more money to one of the bigger guys that are probably more highly certified.
Wow, that is really not easy. So we're gonna understand more about the quality of the supplier. But before that, we also need to build relationship and understand the quality of the inspector as well.
Yeah, and listen, this is all like, these things all take years. Like, Megla will tell you the same thing. Like, I've been doing this for 16 years, and it's all about building relationships and building the network. I've dealt with customers over the years who've dealt with me and then felt that they can go off and do it themselves. And then 6 months later, I'll get a phone call and they'll have an issue with a product, or they'll have an issue with an inspection, and they want us to come in and help them again. So it's not straightforward, but it's like anything. If you're experienced in your industry and you know what you know, right?
So what about some most common mistakes that you may experience with those who ask for help from you about, say, the mistakes that the business will make while they are sourcing products? And do you have any advice that you would give them to avoid these kind of pitfalls?
The biggest mistakes, again, like I mentioned, would be around pricing.
Pricing.
So understanding the different types, the X factory, the FOB, the CIF, DDP. So around pricing and freight are the biggest mistakes I see people make, because they'll get the X factory price, they'll go, this is great, I'm going to put on 70% margin and ship it in, but they're not taking into consideration the freight. And especially at the moment, the freight industry is kind of on its head, and things are very, very expensive and taking very, very long to ship. So pricing would be the biggest issue I would see people running into. And like I kind of referenced earlier on, a lot of people run into that issue on Alibaba.
The pricing. But regarding the pricing, I will ask one more question. Say, we got a lot of small business owner where maybe they just start doing something. The MOQ is not really high. Is there any way that we could help them to get the best price regarding the not too great position about the small MOQ?
I mean, generally, the smaller the MOQ, the higher the price. That's going to be the payoff. When you're buying directly from a factory in China, you're getting the best price, right? You're going directly to a factory, so you're going to get the best price. But and again, depending on the product, MOQs are all dependent on the raw material. So if the factory has to buy a bigger raw material supply from his raw material supplier, that's going to affect the MOQ. So a lot of them can drop MOQs down, but it's going to raise the price, and that's the kind of payoff. I mean, the other option is you buy from a wholesaler in your own country, but those prices are much more expensive because that person has already shipped the goods in, they're warehousing them in their country, and there's a lot of cost to go on that. So yeah.
So I gonna say we face a little bit. So when the order is not a huge order, so is there any way that they can negotiate for a better price?
It's difficult. It's difficult to get it down because, again, Megla touched on it. You need it to be a win-win for the factory and the customer. So the longer the relationship goes with the factory, the better terms you'll get, the better pricing you'll get. But if you start hammering home that you want better pricing all the time, the factory will use a cheaper product to make cheaper raw material to make your product. And I've been in situations where customers have hammered on price, that we ask the factory for a cheaper price, they give it to us, and then they make the product, and it's not as good as the previous one because they're using a worse material, and the factory haven't told us, and it causes a lot of confusion and a lot of heartache. So it's important that as a customer you understand that the factory has to make money. That if you do want to get better pricing, you have to have a successful company, a successful brand, build it, and order more product. And the more you order and the bigger quantities you order, the more the factory will help. So it's a bit of give and take.
So we all understand that's a business fact, okay? So remember, folks, you can always use the Q&A function on Zoom. We'll pick some of the questions to ask our Ellen and Magner. Okay, so I remember there's a question that was really interesting. So how to identify true manufacturers and avoid the middleman? Can I start with asking Magner about that? Say some of our audience want to ask, say how to avoid that is actually a middleman, not really the real manufacturer. Magner, do you have some idea?
Yeah, definitely. So there are a couple of things that you can do. And first of all, just ask them, right? Straight up, just ask, are you a manufacturer? Do you have a factory? Where's your factory located? Can I come visit your factory?
They can make up some information, right?
Exactly. So that's one thing. I mean, the first thing that you do is ask that. If they're very upfront about it, yes, our factory is here, come and visit us anytime. And our factory is so big, we have so many workers. If they're very upfront and open about all the factory information, they're very likely to be a factory, right? But if there's some hesitation there, or if they're like, oh, the factory is closed, or oh, the factory is too far, I'm sitting in the head office, and things like that, then that those are some red flags. The other thing that you can also look at is their range of products that they offer. So typically, as I mentioned during my presentation as well, factories would specialize in certain materials or certain products. So if they're doing a wide range of products, let's say plastic and rubber and fabric and different materials, if they're using different materials, a very diverse range of products, that means that they are most likely a factory. Of course, a trading company. Of course, it also may be the case that they are a really large factory and they have multiple divisions, making different kinds of products. That's also possible. But it's more likely that they are a middleman if they have a very diverse range of products.
So how about Ellen? What do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to give an example there. I'm dealing with a new customer in the UK and I'm doing accessories for them. and it's a mug, a spoon, and an electronic frother for coffee. And I was talking to the client, and he told me, "Oh, we're dealing with this factory, and they make all three of these products." And I went, "No, they don't." And I went, "Think about it. They're three very different products. You think there's a factory that has all this machinery to make these three products?" He's like, "But they told me they make all three products." And I went, "You're dealing with a trading house, and the trading house is working on margins like myself and Megla are working on margins, right? But for whatever reason, and I still don't really understand why a lot of these guys lie about it and say they're the factory. They don't admit that they're a trading house, which I don't think it's a bad thing. Trading houses offer lots of different services and offer lots of different products if people want to kind of mix them together. So for whatever reason, they lie about it, and when it comes out that they're not directly with the factory, it causes hassle for customers.
Okay, say we accept the fact that they're kind of like the middleman or the third parties. There comes another questions. Say another audience asks us, how can one maintain the product quality when they are sourcing from those third parties or the middleman? So what's your view?
Again, back to the quality control to make sure that everything is done before the goods are shipped. Always having a golden sample to make sure that that is going to be what's signed off on. So the customer is signed off on it. The factory are very aware that this is the item that it's on the production line when things are being made. Going to the factories as well. If I'm dealing with a factory for the first time, I'll always go up for a first mass production. I will always, or because I'm based in Hong Kong, I'll tell them a day before in advance, just so they can't really get ready for me to come up, and kind of just keeping them on their toes to make sure that the quality levels stay high.
Okay, how about Mena, do you share the same view?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with Alan. And I would also add that in sourcing or in manufacturing, quality is very subjective. I mean, it is basically adherence to specifications. That's how we define quality. So don't assume anything. I mean, you have to specify your requirements, your specifications and everything to the supplier. Don't let them assume anything. I think that's a mistake that a lot of new buyers make. You know, they think that, oh, this is very basic. The supplier will understand that the thickness of this metal should be X, X mm or whatever. This is the very basic, But no, suppliers are going to produce the product based on your specifications. So you need to control quality. You need to specify exactly what you want and give them very detailed requirements.
Our audience really give a follow-up question. I love Elizabeth, this question. She asked, even after visiting the factory or getting the sample, say, Alan and Mena, how could we really make sure that the product we finally get is really the nice one, the quality is the nice one? What do you think? Even after inspection, after the visit, after you getting the sample, is there any more tips to make sure the consistency of getting everything all right?
So if we're talking about a consistent basis, like if you order something and the quality is great, to make sure that it keeps going. Again, it's really about making sure that, and this is again a lot of what myself and Megla will do, making sure that you're keeping on top of the quality. With Hook Home, with my furniture brand, every order I go up to see them. There's been different issues along the way, but we're constantly working with the factory to make sure that the products, that the raw materials that they're buying are the same quality as they bought before, that we're not skimping anywhere along the production line. Giving the factory enough time to manufacture. When people start rushing the factory, you can run into mistakes. And again, you've got to realize sometimes you're dealing with people on a production line that their standards mightn't be the same as your customer. So stuff can get thrown in a box that they're not really paying attention to, that they think is fine, but then to our customer standards, it's not fine. So it's really just about keeping on top of it all the time, every single order, keeping on top of it with your samples, the way you ask for quotations, the way you check the goods, your quality control, never slacking off. Because the minute you stop doing that, even if you've had 10 orders of the same product, something will go wrong with the 11th order. There'll be something that they won't pay attention to, or something will change. So it's really just keeping on top of it the whole time.
Okay. Mena, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with Alan on everything. And also conducting inspections, So sometimes we conduct inspections only just before the product is shipped out of the factory. So like a pre-shipment inspection. But if your orders are generally above $10,000, I would suggest to do a midline inspection as well, to check the materials, components, and to catch issues and errors earlier in the process. Because if you catch errors towards the end, like when the 80% of the goods are packaged and ready to go out, it's very difficult to fix issues at that point. And as Alan was also saying, you have to keep on top of quality. Sometimes once you place multiple orders with a particular factory, you start to get comfortable and you think that, oh, the quality is pretty good. I'm not going to have any more issues. And then sort of you maybe don't do inspections. That's something that you should avoid. You should always do inspections because you never know what might go wrong. Maybe the raw material that they sourced for this batch is different, or maybe the supervisor on the assembly line has changed and they don't understand your requirements as well. So there are a lot of moving parts in manufacturing.
Yeah.
I see one question from our audience, quite interesting. The scenario is like Scott told us that he got two potential suppliers. One encouraged him to visit the factories. Another one just don't want Scott to visit. So could you saying that the one don't really want you to visit could be some not too good to pick? Or do you have any idea how we should evaluate this situation? Alan?
That would be a red flag.
That be, oh.
Yeah, I mean, if they're telling you not to come and visit the factory, that would be a red flag. I've never been told not to come visit a factory, and I've been in some pretty poor factories in terms of just standards and cleanliness and all that. So yeah, I've never been in a situation where they've told me not to come, but that would be a major red flag for me.
So Mena, what about you? Do you experience any
I
factory
totally
that
agree.
say, don't visit me?
No, I haven't. I mean, it's very likely that this is a trading company or maybe somebody just sitting in their basement in their pajamas and, listing products on Alibaba and just buying them from different factories.
Well,
so,
Scott,
yeah, I mean, a factory, they would really like to visit, they would really like you to visit them. And, that's how they also like to build relationships.
I'm pretty sure that you two save a lot of money for Scott this time, yeah? Okay, one more question about the trend I want to say. I know Mena is more familiar or focused on the SEA countries, of course China as well. Is there any big hit product or tips when we do sourcing in SEA or India? There's some audience want to know about that.
Yeah, definitely. So for SEA, what I would say is that each country specializes in different products. So, China makes anything and everything. So in China, it's not a matter of if you can get a product, it's a matter of how much is it for, right? But all of the other SEA countries, they specialize in certain categories. So you've got to understand what categories each country specializes in and then source those products from those countries. So for example, let's take Vietnam. Footwear is a very big industry there. So if you're looking for any kind of footwear, Vietnam, very competitive. Furniture, one of the biggest exporters of furniture in the world is Vietnam. So any furniture item, you find really good pricing. Bags, backpacks, luggage, all of those things. But if you want to source, let's say, electronics or power banks, you wouldn't go to Vietnam. You would have to source those products from China, right? Similarly, India does a lot of natural materials, also handmade products, textiles, cotton textiles. If you want to do like functional swimwear, you wouldn't go to India for that. You'd probably go to China or maybe even Vietnam. So each country is very different, very unique. And that's the beauty of each country. So, if you go to India, you source the products that India specializes in. Other sellers who are sourcing from China will not be able to source those products because they're, India's specialty. So that's another way to differentiate yourself as well by sourcing from, other countries, other China alternatives.
So how about Alan? What do you think about the big hits coming up in the sourcing in China and any tips to source a good product in China?
I often get asked this about the next big thing. China is known for copying and being amazing at copying stuff, right? I think where they are in their cycle of development, they're not like amazing innovation in phone technology and electronics and all that sort of stuff, like incredible. But in non-electronic products, which is more where I'm focused in, it's about making what the customer wants rather than coming up with an idea and people going there for the idea. I get asked it every year if I'm going to the Canton Fair, the shows, the HKTD shows here in Hong Kong, like, see what you can get that's going to be a trend. The trends come from the West. Trends come from the US and come from Europe and come into Asia. It's not necessarily going the other way. So if you want something copied and you want a product made amazing, China's your place. But yeah, it's not necessarily in the space yet for real proper innovation.
Okay, so actually, I really want a part two of this webinar. I guess we need to have that. But now we're gonna say a big thank you to Mainland and Alan first. Thank you for the wonderful tips and the sharing of the practical tips today. As a marketer, I really learned a lot today as well. So remember, take a moment to fill out the survey after our webinar, because you get a chance to learn how to get access to the limited offers of the sponsorship and this sponsorship of the flight ticket and even the hotel discount for your next visit to the Hong Kong TDC event. That is amazing, right? So remember to fill out the survey, you get the information about that, and you can also get Magnet's presentation slide and one more, the fast registration to Hong Kong TDC's multiple expos coming up. That is wonderful. Just fill out the survey and you will get all these goodies. Okay, last but not least, make sure to follow all our Hong Kong TDC's sourcing social media accounts to stay updated. So you know what's next and what is the next coming up event, so you can learn a lot from our experts. So today it's almost the time, and we hope to see you at the next event. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.